We're going to keep this conversation going with California Congressman Jay Obernolte, who's joining us now live on the program. He's been listening in to the Speaker's press conference as well. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
It's always an honor.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much. As we heard from the Speaker there, we're wondering what happens next when it comes to that $3.5 trillion reconciliation spending plan. Of course, you got to get all the Senate Democrats on board. She says she's found and could find some common ground with Senator Joe Manchin. What are your predictions for the Democrats' spending plan?
Well, it's hard to say, but I would never count her out. Of course, we're hoping that the moderates hold firm. I think it's very clear that it's crazy to be talking about the largest spending package in the history of our country paired with the largest tax increases in the history of our country when we already have a $2.3 trillion budget deficit this year, when our national debt is already at 100%, 7% of our gross domestic product. So I think that the progressives are right to be skeptical that the moderates are going to be able to come together on this because it's so clearly bad for the future of our country.
Talk to me about the vote today and the bipartisan infrastructure vote. It did get some Senate Republicans on board. How are you viewing that one?
Well, I think that you have to view this in the context of the overall spending package. And so we in the Republican conference look at these two packages as one combined package, the reconciliation package and the infrastructure package, together over $5 trillion of new government spending. So I don't see that it will get a lot of support from the Republican conference in the House of Representatives. And we'll just see how much support it gets on the Democratic side. But of course, the other very important piece of legislation we'll be considering today is the continuing resolution that will stop the government shutdown that's pending at midnight tonight. And unfortunately, what Congress is preparing to do is what Congress does best, which is kick the can down the road. Rather than dealing with passing a budget this year and passing appropriations bills that will fund the country for another year, we're just going to delay that until December. Of course, yesterday afternoon, the House passed a bill that would suspend the debt ceiling, not resolve the debt situation, not balance the budget, but instead just suspend the debt ceiling for another year and a half until December next year. So I am really in hopes that sooner or later, we as a legislative body are going to be able to come together and have a serious discussion about what to do about our deficit and the national debt, because it is unconscionable for us to continue kicking the can down the road and to leave this legacy of trillions of dollars of debt to our children.
Well, you're trying to take a step forward on this as we approach $29 trillion in national debt. And as you point out, there still wants to be more spending in place to add to it. You tried to introduce a motion for responsible spending on the House Budget Committee. Can you tell us about what happened to the fate of that bill?
Absolutely, yes. So we had on Saturday a 8-hour markup of the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill. And as part of that, we could introduce what are called motions to instruct, which would amend the bill as it comes out of the Budget Committee. And so what I attempted to do is to establish a federal committee for finding federal savings. And this is something that was also tried after World War II, which is the last time that our national debt was this high. And in an effort to bring down federal spending, they established something called an anti-appropriations committee, which would go through and look at every federal program and identify the programs that were unnecessary or underperforming, and then make recommendations on how to fix that problem. And those recommendations would be in the form of legislation that would go straight to the House floor. It would be, as we say, highly privileged, which would limit the ability for special interests to interfere in the process and really help us get federal spending under control. But unfortunately, that was, as expected, shot down on a party line vote. But I mean, I think it illustrates the point that sooner or later, we're going to have to resolve to get our arms around this problem of federal spending, because for better or for worse, our Republican form of government is not well set up to control this spending. And unless we find a way systemically of doing this long term, I fear for our future as a country.
All right. That is Congressman Jay Obernolte joining us live on the program. He's got that vote later today. Congressman, thank you very much for joining us.
Absolutely, Emma.
Thank you.